On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. Father, your trust in me has been so great, I must be worthy. You created me and know me as I am, and yet you placed your Son's salvation in my hands, and let it rest on my decision. I must be beloved of you indeed, and I must be steadfast in holiness as well, that you would give your Son to me in certainty, that he is safe who still is part of you, and yet is mine because he is myself. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. And so again today we pause to think how much our Father loves us, and how dear his Son, created by his love, remains to him whose love is made complete in him. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. Another way that you can think of that is, on my decision, all my happiness rests. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm Miracle Willie, forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks. We're ready for lesson 238 in A Course in Miracles. We're reading from the version printed by Foundation for Inner Peace here on Sunday, August the 25th of 2024. And let's go ahead and read through it again. We just sang it. God has, or get the right page. Now will I, on my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. Father, your trust, and another way of thinking about that is change the word salvation to happiness. You have the power to be happy just by stepping back and letting God lead the way. Follow God's guidance, not your own mechanical thinking, your own figuring it out. Your own belief in problems causes you not to realize that you can't have any problems. Your idea that you could live in a world of loss keeps you unable to know what to do, what to decide. But there is a voice in you that you can hear, and a world you can see through the eyes of Christ that have been given to you. On my decision, all happiness rests. So it's not outside you. You get to decide. On my salvation, on my decision, all salvation rests. Father, your trust in me has been so great, I must be worthy. You created me and know me as I am, and yet you placed your Son's salvation in my hands and let it rest on my decision. I must be beloved of you indeed, and I must be steadfast in holiness as well, that you would give your Son to me in certainty that he is safe, who still is part of you, and yet is mine, because he is myself. On my decision, all salvation rests. And so again today we pause to think how much our Father loves us, and how dear his Son, created by his love, remains to him whose love is made complete in him. And yesterday we didn't read What is Salvation together. Did you go back and read it? When I make a mistake like that and don't read it, you all be sure to read. You know, maybe I did make a mistake. Maybe it was just to encourage you to, so I'd have this conversation that every day you're to read that during those 10 days where you're doing those lessons after What is Salvation. Read What is Salvation every day. And then, so if you didn't, since we didn't read it together, hopefully you read it yourself afterwards. I ended up reading it myself and thought to myself, well, I didn't even read that to my friends. So you be sure to do that every day. Read through it and be prepared. What is salvation? Salvation is a promise made by God that you would find your way to Him at last. And I might add one more thing. If for some reason I don't get it uploaded, for some reason, internet failure or whatever, something happens to me and I can't upload, do your lesson every day, whether I'm here or not. Hopefully I make it easy for you, but you be sure that you do your lesson even if I don't show up for some reason. Or if I make a mistake and drop the ball like I did on What is Salvation yesterday. Salvation is a promise made by God that you would find your way to Him at last. It cannot but be kept. It guarantees that time will have an end, and all the thoughts that have been born in time will end as well. God's word is given every mind that thinks that it has separate thoughts, and will replace these thoughts of conflict with the thought of peace. The thought of peace was given to God's Son the instant that His mind had thought of war. There was no need for such a thought before, for peace was given without opposite and merely was. But when the mind is split, there is a need of healing. So the thought that has the power to heal the split became a part of every fragment of the mind that still was one, but failed to recognize its oneness. Now it did not know itself and thought its own identity was lost. Salvation is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. Thus it lets illusions go by not supporting them. It merely lets them quietly go down to dust. And what they hid is now revealed, an altar to the holy name of God whereon His word is written, with the gifts of your forgiveness laid before it, and the memory of God not far behind. Let us come daily to this holy place and spend a while together. Here we share our final dream. It is a dream in which there is no sorrow, for it holds a hint of all the glory given us by God. The grass is pushing through the soil. The trees are budding now, and birds have come to live within their branches. Earth is being born again in new perspective. Night has gone, and we have come together in the light. From here we give salvation to the world, for it is here salvation was received. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world, that freedom is returned, that time is almost over, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait until His Father is remembered, dreams are done, eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. On my decision, all salvation rests. Let's go look at our text reading for today, and we're in chapter 26, the transition, Roman numeral 4, where sin has left. And before we read that, can I go back and read sentence number 1 of yesterday again and put the right words in there? I used the word ego instead of God, which is a complete exact opposite of what it really meant. Complexity is not of God. I just want to make sure we clarify that. I was listening to the video. I try to listen to it as my evening meditation. I do a morning meditation and read through the lesson. Then I do the recording and do the lesson. And then I listen to it in the evening. So I listen to it 3 times in a day. And I try to, when I listen to it, I just try to put myself in your shoes. And I thought, oh my, complexity is of, how does he say it again? Let me turn back to it. Complexity is not of God. You know, God is simple. Everything is simple. It's either truth or illusion. There's oneness. Everything's integrated. I use my hands showing the just complete integration. Okay, before we read the next section, where sin has left, section 4, let's talk a moment about what's going on around the world. Let's see, out of holidays and observances, It's National Park Founders Day. Woodrow Wilson began the national park system. He signed it into law on August this day in 1916. Go Topless Day, and that's for, basically to speak about gender equality. So go topless on the grounds of gender equality is the idea. Be careful where you do that. Kiss and Makeup Day. That's a good thing to do whenever you have a little spat with your partner. Kiss and make up. Practice forgiveness. Wouldn't you rather be happy rather than being right? What lessons we can learn in our relationships. That's the path. The Course in Miracles says, use your relationship to speed you on your way. Learn to practice forgiveness. Recognizes what you thought your brother did to you has not even occurred. Banana Split Day, Secondhand Wardrobe Day. I'm all about trying to minimize our impact on the earth, and if you can use secondhand things, by all means do so. Whiskey Sour Day, Pony Express Day. That thing only lasted about a year, Pony Express, before the telegraph came. Sacrifice our wants for others' needs. And I found this on a YouTube. It's Alec Pellman of Israel. It's called Man Grows All of His Own Food on 750 square meters. And the thing, his motive for learning to grow his own food was that he didn't want to make a big impact, like what it was said here, Secondhand Wardrobe Day. He didn't want to make such a big impact on the world, and he realized, oh my, I could be growing my own food and make life a whole lot simpler. There wouldn't be as much taxation from an ethical standpoint. There wouldn't be as much taxation on the world, on the way things are grown with fossil fuels and whatnot. Boy, and he only spends about 8 hours. He said 24, but when you get to listen more, he only spends about 8 hours a month to grow all his own food. And that's where we want to try to get more and more into that realm. Maybe you don't grow all your own food, but grow enough for you, and then share a bunch and let people share with you, and have a community of food growers. Anyway, that's on Echo Nomad. 750 square meters is 8,000 square feet, which is, less than a big city, a big lot in town, or 2 small city lots, 1/5 of an acre roughly. And he talks about he grows wheat and some kind of a legume, and then something to make oil. He uses olives, but he's in Israel. And then in edible landscaping, we've got the Shanxi Li Jujube. I called it a Jujube yesterday, but it's a Jujube. And the Shanxi Li Jujube is the largest of the Li Jujubes and can reach 2 inches in diameter. The Shanxi Li tree is beautifully ornamental with sweet, crisp fruit that is delicious, fresh or dried. Shanxi Li also does well in hot, dry zones. 8 to 10 foot tall and 10 to 12 foot wide, zones 6 through 10. So there's one that can grow here throughout the Ozarks. Now let's look at where sin has left. And keep with you in your mind today. On my decision, all my happiness rests, or on my decision, all salvation rests. Forgiveness is this world's equivalent of heaven's justice. It translates the world of sin into a simple world where justice can be reflected from beyond the gate, behind which total lack of limits lies. Nothing in boundless love could need forgiveness. And what is charity within the world gives way to simple justice past the gate that opens into heaven. No one forgives unless he has believed in sin and still believes that he has much to be forgiven. Forgiveness thus becomes the means by which he learns he has done nothing to forgive. Forgiveness thus becomes the means by which he learns he has done nothing to forgive. Forgiveness always rests upon the one who offers it until he sees himself as needing it no more. Catch that? Forgiveness always rests upon the one who offers it until he sees himself as needing it no more. And thus is he returned to his real function of creating, which his forgiveness offers him again. You know, you're really not forgiving your brother. You're forgiving your perception of your brother. It's on you that you're learning to forgive. Of course, we're recognizing that your brother and you are one. Paragraph 2, forgiveness turns the world of sin into a world of glory, wonderful to see. Each flower shines in light, and every bird sings the joy of heaven. There is no sadness, and there is no parting here, for everything is totally forgiven. And what has been forgiven must join, for nothing stands between to keep them separate and apart. The sinless must perceive that they are one, for nothing stands between to push the other off. And in the space that sin left vacant, do they join as one, in gladness recognizing what is part of them has not been kept apart and separate. Paragraph 3. The holy place on which you stand is but the space that sin has left, and here you see the face of Christ arising in its place. Who could behold the face of Christ and not recall his Father as he really is? Who could fear love and stand upon the ground where sin has left a place for heaven's altar, to rise and tower far above the world, and reach beyond the universe, to touch the heart of all creation? What is heaven but a song of gratitude and love and praise by everything created to the source of its creation? Wow, there's the definition of heaven. What is heaven but a song of gratitude and love and praise by everything created to the source of its creation? The holiest of altars is set where once sin was believed to be, and here does every light of heaven come to be rekindled and increased in joy. For here is what was lost restored to them, and all their radiance made whole again. Paragraph 4. Forgiveness brings no little miracle to lay before the gate of heaven. Here the Son of God himself comes to receive each gift that brings him nearer to his home. Not one is lost, and none is cherished more than any other. Each reminds him of his Father's love as surely as the rest, and each one teaches him that what he feared, he loves the most. What but a miracle could change his mind so that he understands that love cannot be feared? What other miracle is there but this, that love cannot be feared? What other miracle is there but this? And what else need there be to make the space between you disappear? The space between you and your brother, which is really, there's no space at all. It's just sin that makes it seem like I'm in a body and they're in a body and there's a distance between us. Where sin once was perceived will rise a world that will become an altar to the truth, and you will join the lights of heaven there and sing their song of gratitude and praise. And as they come to you to be complete, so will you go with them. For no one hears the song of heaven and remains without a voice that adds its power to the song and makes it sweeter still. And each one joins the singing at the altar that was raised within the tiny spot that sin proclaimed to be its own. And what was tiny then has soared into a magnitude of song in which the universe has joined with but a single voice. In the last paragraph, 6, this tiny spot of sin that stands between you and your brother still is holding back the happy opening of heaven's gate. The decision you want to make today, on my decision all happiness or all salvation rest, is just to decide that you want to see your holiness in your brother and yourself. This tiny spot of sin that stands between you and your brother still is holding back the happy opening of heaven's gate. How little is the hindrance that withholds the wealth of heaven from you, and how great will be the joy in heaven when you join the mighty chorus to the love of God that's going on whether you know it or not. You might as well know it. There's a part of you that does know it. Okay, and like I tell you every day, do your quiet time of morning and an evening where you sit still and let your thoughts be still. Enter into it with the idea, on my decision, all salvation rests. Do that again before you go to bed at night. And then throughout the day, every hour of the day, tell yourself, on my decision, all salvation rests. And ask God for guidance. And be sure to give thanks. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. Father, your trust in me has been so great, I must be worthy. You created me and know me as I am, and yet you placed your Son's salvation in my hands, and let it rest on my decision, on my decision. I must be beloved of you indeed, and I must be steadfast in holiness as well, that you would give your Son to me in certainty, that he is safe who still is part of you, and yet is mine because he is myself. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. And so again today we pause to think how much our Father loves us, and how dear his Son, created by his love, remains to him whose love is made complete in him. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. What is salvation? What is salvation? Salvation is a promise made by God, that you would find your way to him at last. Salvation is undoing in the sense that it does nothing, failing to support the world of dreams and malice. The song of our rejoicing is the call to all the world, that freedom is returned, that time is almost over, and God's Son has but an instant more to wait, until his Father is remembered, dreams are done, eternity has shined away the world, and only heaven now exists at all. On my decision, all salvation rests. Father, your trust in me has been so great, I must be worthy. You created me and know me as I placed your son's salvation in my hands, and let it rest on my decision. I must be beloved of you indeed, and I must be steadfast in holiness as well, that you would give your son to me in certainty, that he is safe who still is part of you, and yet is mine because he is myself. On my decision all salvation rests. On my decision all salvation rests. And so again today we pause to think how much our Father loves us, and how dear his Son, created by his love, remains to him whose love is made complete in him. On my decision all salvation rests. On my decision all salvation rests. And our word for peace is out of the Faroese, what is that? Faroese Islands, Faroese language. It's Faroese is the North Atlantic islands. I think there's about 18 islands between Denmark and Ireland. And the word for peace out of Faroese is Fridur. So Fridur be with you. On my decision, all salvation rests. On my decision, all my happiness rests. On my decision, all salvation rests. Fridur.